Welcome to the Power Forward Pod, hosted by the Power Forward Group Financial Advisory Team, where we believe 2 is better than 1, dialogues are better than monologues, thoughts are meant to be challenged, sound boxes are the enemy, and change is the only constant. Today, I'm joined by the newest member of the team and my good friend, David Chabbott. David joined us earlier this year, and I'm excited. We're going to talk a little bit about David's why, David's journey, the importance of prepping for the unexpected, and the ability to pivot and change on the fly while thinking about what your goals are and what your family goals are, and the cleanest and most effective ways of making sure we ensure that we achieve them. So, David, how long do we know each other?
We've known each other since nursery, pretty sure, unless we crossed paths a little before then. But it's been 35 years around.
All right, so I know you longer than I know my wife, Erica.
Oh, for sure. But I might have known Erica, actually.
Okay.
From that point.
Before me.
Our moms were friends. Our friends.
Okay. So now we're going to shift our dynamic a little bit, right? We went from being good friends for the past 35 years or so. Now we're going to, can't wait to begin our joint working careers together as you join the group. So I want to talk a little bit about your story, why you started working with Power Forward Group, and a little bit about how that story has impacted you and impacts just clients in general. I knew David was going to be a great financial advisor in first grade because David had a proclivity for making sure that he was always well taken care of, because I'm not sure if your mom, Diane, packed enough lunch every day.
You know, a man needs his snacks, and you had better snacks than myself. But you know, somehow we got through that.
Yeah, in Mrs. Box class, I'd open my lunch box every day, 12 o'clock, and somehow snack would be missing. Now, my mom definitely packed that snack, but David sat down smiling while eating my snack. So David, why Power Forward Group? Tell us why you made the shift in your life at this point.
Why, how, what? It's a long journey that led me here for sure.
So we're done with first grade. Let's talk about your past career.
But it's funny, in first grade, I'm pretty sure that I knew that I would be a coffee man, and by that I mean I would join my family business, which is called still Gilley's Coffee Company, which is America's oldest coffee merchant, and it was founded in the year 1840 on Water Street in New York, one of the oldest businesses in the country. But particularly the oldest coffee roaster in America. And my father and his business partner, they ran Gilley's from over 40 years together. My father's partner's family owned the business for over 100 years. And when my dad and his partner went to sleepaway camp, when they were 16, 17 years old, they hit it off as friends. And it wasn't a dormant business, but they sort of revived it and continued the legacy. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to work with my dad.
So your dad is partner. Your dad goes into the business. They go into business together. Friends first. They go into business together. Gilley's Coffee. And then you kind of knew that's where you'd end up one day?
It's where I wanted to be. I have 2 sisters, but they are a lot smarter than me, at least education-wise. They both have Ivy pedigrees, and I love my dad, and I always knew that I wanted to work with him. So no matter what he was doing, that's what I was going to do, and he worked at Gilley's, and that's what I was planning on. And it's been my life for, from when I graduated Brooklyn College. Even when I was in Brooklyn College, I was there part-time. I was sweeping the floors, making deliveries, putting together orders, doing everything. Every part of the business I did. And then I did sales, and then, and in around 2016, my father, he always had health issues, but they started becoming much more common. Things would happen. And so I had to be in the office a lot more. And in October 2019, my father passed away. And really that was like it was a shock to me, but it wasn't a shock because nobody would think that my father would live till 100 years old. There was never something that would be presumed. But it changed a lot in my mind, and it changed the way I was thinking and what my plans were. And
but to that point, right? Your father had always intended for you, and you had always intended you were going to be the one who's going to join the coffee company. Was his intention? Hey, this is the company that supported your mom, your two sisters, and yourself. Was that going to be David Chabbott's life? Was that the intention?
Absolutely, that was the intention. When I started, my father's partner's son was also in the business, and he also only had one son. And they always used to say, the two Davids.
His son was named David also?
His son was named David also. It was the password on some of the computers.
Okay, all right.
Those computers
Two-factor
are
authentication.
1984 IBM. Yeah, they're not really in existence anymore, so it's okay. You could try. But he actually ended up leaving the business, following his passion, which is, something that's great.
What's his passion?
Basketball.
So David Buckets leaves to play basketball.
No, play basketball, manage basketball,
to be involved
run
in basketball.
That was his passion.
And David Chabbott stays, and he's building Gilly's Coffee with his dad and your dad's partner.
Yeah, so that's what it ended up being. And
so just from a structural standpoint, so I understand it, and I saw some of this through some of the planning we ended up doing with you and your mom. Who owned the business?
So the business was owned by half my father and half his partner.
Did you own any of the business?
I own nothing.
And did his son own any of the business?
No.
Okay. So.
And, that's the way it was set up. And actually, in order for the next generation to own the business, it had to be approved by the other partner. So
if you or David Buckets was going to take over this business, it would have to be approved. If David Buckets took over the business, that'd be approved by your dad. If David C takes over the business, it's got to be approved by the partner.
Correct. It couldn't just be left to somebody.
Okay.
You can't leave the business to whoever you want. It's a partnership.
So this plan is on paper. Like, where does this plan exist? Is this something that was just discussed?
So really, it took until my father's passing for me to truly understand the nature of the buy-sell agreement that we had.
So just to pause there for a minute, what is a buy-sell agreement?
So a buy-sell agreement, in principle, is it helps settle a business in the case of two partners or more than two partners. If somebody passes away, if somebody gets very sick, in case, for example, in my business, that if one of the partners passed away, they owned life insurance policies on each other, which the proceeds can be used to buy out the other partner of his shares.
So there's a legal document that sits there. There's two life insurance policies cross-owned by the partners. And upon the passing of one partner, the intention of the legal document is that the proceeds of the life insurance should buy out the other partner, right?
Yes.
That way your mom, right, the estate, doesn't own the business.
The estate of my father would receive the death benefit on my. In theory, that's what would happen. That the death benefit would go to the family of the one who passes, and the shares of the business that were owned by the deceased go to the survivor.
And presumably, there's an evaluation of the business, and the life insurance policies match up to 50% of the value of the business at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's in theory, a buy-sell is a great idea, but it doesn't end when you sign the buy-sell.
Right. So when was that buy-sell put together?
In the mid-1970s.
Yeah, that was...
And there were some...
I'm not going to give David's age, but you were born in the 1980s. And so was David Buckets.
Yeah, he might 79, 80. Yeah, but
okay.
You get the idea. And
I'm sure the value, forget about the you two being in place, I'm sure the value of the company has changed.
It could change. It could go up. It could go down. I mean, it could work either way. And, when you have a whole life insurance policy and there's dividends and there's cash value, I mean, it is impossible if you do not update this piece of paper over 25 years that the policy value is going to equal anywhere close to a business value. because there's so many factors.
So now your dad passes. You've been in the business for how many years at this point?
Well, I started around 2001, so it was, 18 years.
So your entire working life, you're in the business, your dad passes, your dad's partner owns 50% of the business, and your dad's estate, presumably your mother owns the other 50% of the business.
Correct.
And you own how much of the business?
I own 0% personally, but I was an employee of the business.
Okay. Right.
But I was, I was operating the business. I was doing the work of an owner of a business.
Right.
But the business was not mine.
Right. Okay. And I assume your dad's intention was for this in company to take care of your family, right? And then what was your intention? What was your hope for Gilly's Coffee?
Well, when my dad was around, I figured, if my father passes, when my father passes, I would take over. But it was a hard conversation to have, as it always is. But it doesn't matter if it's a hard conversation to have. One of the main lessons I learned was have the hard conversations, because it's a lot easier to settle things when everybody's alive and everybody is healthy, because once that's no longer the case, it becomes very, very complicated.
Yeah, I think that's a life truism. Financially, wishes-wise, I think that's, if you don't have the conversation now, you're never having the conversation.
Preparation is key. And in my father's mind, I'm sure he thought that he prepared properly. They had a buy-sell agreement. My mother was taken care of when he passed. Unfortunately, she didn't know a lot of things. When he first passed away, there was a whole lot of conversations that she didn't know what she had. She didn't know where it was. It's just, you need to get all of this down on paper. And honestly, an advisor is imperative. And I wish that when I was going through this, it should have started before, my father got really sick.
Right.
But I wish I had an advisor who kept me in the loop, who had conversations with me and my dad and my mom and my sister. We all should have been more aware of what would happen when the when the things we know will happen.
Well, I think what happens for a lot of people in life, and I think we see this all the time in our own personal lives and in businesses, right? Your dad is a microcosm for everybody else, is going to work every day, and then you're going to work every day to him to support his family and you to support your family. And that's, to some degree, life's mission, right? You want to take care of your kids. You want to take care of his kids and your mom. But then what happens when you're not there? What's the repercussions of when you're not there to tell people what those wishes are? And have you structured it effectively to make sure those wishes come into being? I think we see that all the time. And I think to your point, it's important to not just have the conversations, but it's important to put this stuff together, because then it's just conversations, right? And then the other person involved, the people who are affected, will ask, hey, how do we know that conversation necessarily happened? Not that it's always a fight. It's just everybody wants the best, right? Everybody wants dad's wishes to come true, but maybe they're interpreting dad's wishes differently, right? People are doing different things, or mom's wishes differently. Did your parents did they have an estate plan in place?
They had a will. They were, compared to conversations I have with other people, they were definitely more prepared than others, or at least my father knew that. I don't know how much my mother knew.
But the documents were there.
But they were documents, yeah. Thank God they were documents. So it wasn't a total mess, except that Corona happened.
Okay.
And right afterwards.
Didn't see that coming.
And the court, no, I did not see that coming.
Didn't see that coming.
And the courts just shut down.
Right.
So there was money in my father's accounts that my mother was not allowed to touch for 9 months. And that's not something that you can prepare for. There are things, there are trusts, but
we hear
probate
about that.
Court
Right.
was a disaster.
So a will needs to be probated. A trust doesn't necessarily need to be probated. During Corona, a lot of the courts were slow, and probate generally should happen within 13 or 14 months. It was extending because courts were closed. Sometimes you see the different documents used can have a different effect, and we saw that kind of came into view during Corona. But the documents are there, right? Even the buy-sell was there, right? A lot of people don't do that. So there's documents in place, plans are in place, but a lot had changed life-wise, right?
Yeah, there has to be constant updating, and it's really, it's a pain to write a will. It's a pain to do a buy-sell agreement. It's a pain to do all of these things, and I'm sure that once they are completed, people are like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done. I'm never going to do it again. But no, you really have to, you have to be persistent about, whether it's annually or, or every 2 years even. You have to go back and look at things. You have to say, what value do we have here? What changes do we need? And also the conversations that you have when things are bad, and I don't mean bad economically. I can mean bad health-wise. I can mean somebody passes away. The conversations are very different then. Whether you're dealing with family or not with family, in terms of business, I'm saying everybody wants, everybody's looking out for themselves.
Right.
And it's, so everybody then is sort of like...
Well, they're people, and your people change, right?
Right.
People change over time, right? When your dad, when you come to the business, you're your dad's people, right? Now you have your people. Who are your people? Your kids, right? And your wife, right? That wasn't in the plan originally. People, your circles change.
Absolutely. And so, when you do the proper preparations, which at the time may be slightly annoying, you are setting yourself up to be in a much better place when the unexpected happens. You're in a safer place. You'll be in a financially sound place comparatively. And you don't want to, when you deal with health issues or death, you don't want to be thinking about money. It's the last thing you want to think about.
Right.
You want to think about the people you love, the people who are around you still alive. You want to remember your parents fondly. You want, and the last thing you want to deal with is, the nitty gritty of papers and what's wrong and all that.
Right. So, one of the things I respect a lot about you, and I didn't know this in first grade, and it really became more apparent, I think, as you became a dad and had your own family, is you're almost a little bit type A. You're pretty exact. I don't know. You make sure things are really in order and organized, and it matters to you. And when you think about when I'm with your family, I get the sense when I speak to you about it, and when I was there from an advisory perspective, that that there was a stress that came with the idea that these documents weren't updated. You didn't know exactly what step 2 and step 3 would look like, how your siblings would be taken care of, and how your kids would be taken care of. And when I step back as an advisor, I'll tell you that you guys are more prepared than the vast majority of people we sit down with. The vast majority of people don't have their wills, don't have the buy-sell in place. You guys had a lot of these in place. Sure, they could have been updated more. But looking back, right, your dad passed away in 2019, you said. You joined us a couple of months ago. How is everything today from the sense of Gilly's Coffee, where David Chabbott is today, and where your family is today?
Things are really good.
Okay.
It
almost sounds like it wasn't, right?
I might have thought it wasn't,
right.
But that's because it's our natural inclination to be fearful. But
Gilly's
sitting here is really surprising to me.
Okay.
But it feels a little natural to me. And I don't mean in the podcast room. I mean sitting in the Power Forward offices. And what happened, I really think what happened was I was not disturbed, but I was a little, when we went through the whole process, it was a very confusing time. And I got to be honest, I didn't know completely what you did, but I knew you worked in the realm of, what my mother needed. Financial advisory. What does that mean? And I was 35, 36 years old. I didn't have a financial advisor for myself. And my mother had estate lawyers and those kind of things. But I said, you know what? Talk to Reuven, Mom. We love Reuven. We love the Lavovies. we trust him. And, he's my friend forever. And we gave you a call. And I was in every meeting. And I was happy in these meetings. And why I was happy is because I looked at my mom, and I could tell immediately that she felt this sense of relief, that she was understanding things, and I liked that. And at the same time, in my mind, I would be thinking, do I want to stay at Gillies? My dad's he's not here.
Right, you wanted to work with your dad. That was the intention.
I wanted to work with my dad. I have 5 children, 4 boys and a girl. I'd love all of them to work with me. But I was working. It was a small family business that supported me and my family. I looked at it and I said, could this business support all my children? Listen, I hope my kids are smarter than me and more ambitious than me, and they could grow. But I said, I don't know what I want to do, but I didn't. My heart was gone.
Right.
From the coffee business.
Right.
And I started talking to you and just saying, like, I want to understand what you do better. I want people in situations similar to mine to not be in the same situation that I'm in, of confusion, of not knowing what they had. And I want people to feel the way my mother feels now. And I would love to help them get to that point.
I think that's awesome, right? I mean, Chabbotts are a musical family. I'm tone deaf, but they all have beautiful voices.
He's really tone deaf. He used to sit and we'd have like these singing things in school, and he can't tap the foot with the beat.
Can't do it.
It's crazy thing. I didn't know that could be a thing, but it is.
But my mom was also tone deaf. Said my song is John Lennon's a John Lennon song in the Beatles, and right, life is what happens while you're making other plans. And I think it's really hard to step back and breathe. But if we breathe for a moment, your mom's taken care of because your dad took care of her through what he left her through Gillies Coffee. You got to enjoy working with your dad. You got many years out of it, and at some point you said, "Hey, I'm going to take care of my people." Doing what you learned at it, like through that experience, which is kind of cool. It's really kind of cool.
It's cool to be here. It's nice to go and be in Manhattan, which I used to when I did sales. I was here all the time, but to go outside in the sun, it happens to be May 29th or whatever it is, so it's a beautiful day outside, but have windows, not be I was in a trailer in a warehouse in Sunset Park, which is lovely, but this office experience, people and feeling like you're helping people, it's special.
Right.
And I feel like we help people.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite part about what we do. We hear stories, and then we come in and kind of try to create the direction that people want. We try to put that direction into place and show them, visualize that, and illustrate that for them. And I'm glad you're here and experienced that, because I think you did have a wonderful experience, and you're going to be part of a future wonderful experience, but also get to give that back to others. It's my favorite part about what we do, and I can tell already how much you love it. So we're glad to have David Chabbott here as part of the Power 4 Group team. The important takeaways clearly are put plans together, revisit those plans and update because life changes, but also take a breath and breathe because, enjoy the journey that we're on. Working is hard, but working to the benefit of your peoples, whoever those people are, and making sure they get what you put in out of it is part of the fun. So you got to take some time and spend that time with them, which you got to spend many years with your dad, and now don't steal my lunch anymore. Thank you very much.